acquires. This meeting is being recorded. Can anyone tell me why we are using acquires? We discussed this acquires thing in the last class. It's a syntactical thing that we use. You can refresh. Here you can find a little note. When a function accesses a resource using move from, borrow global or borrow global mute, then you have to indicate that it acquires that resource, and it is done to prevent this no dangling references problem where a reference is earlier pointing to something but now there's nothing there, so it's just a dangling reference. So to in order to prevent that, syntactically you have to specify that this particular acquires keyword is there. So as you can see in this particular function, we are using a move from. So we are using this acquires statement. Okay, is this clear? Okay, perfect. Awesome. So now moving back to this code, right? So what we are doing here is that first of all, we discuss the signer API, right? So this particular move from function, if you see this particular API definition over here, you can see that this takes an address. Because we have the signer object here, first we need to get the address from that. And in order to do that, we have this first line, which is doing let address is equals to signer address of, and it's taking the account. So you're getting the address from here, and then you're using the move from. So what is this move from used for? It is essentially to say that this particular resource which has been attached to this particular address, let's remove it from there, let's destroy this, let's remove it. So this move from is just to delete a resource that is attached to a particular address. Okay, so you can see from here as well, delete t from account, and it will abort if account doesn't have t. So like if there is no resource there, right? So how can you delete something that does not even exist? So this is just the definition from move from. So we're just doing let collection is equals to move from. We're getting that particular collection here, and then in order to reset that, the way that you have to define it is that we say that the collection with items as underscore, like this underscore here represents that it's completely empty, like this it's null, like this is the representation that you have to give in order to set it, that it won't accept any value. So this is just again syntax and nothing else. So this is, by the way, not a list of some item which is empty. It's not a list of empty item. It is saying items itself is like underscore, which is like not accepting any value. So this is how you can basically destroy this particular resource that we have attached to this particular address. Okay, so this is one function that I want you folks to write, and then we can basically add it in our test function. So I think last time Akhilesh had given the test function. Akhilesh, do you want to paste back your test function here? um, and you folks can basically just add a line of the destroying this particular resource that has been attached. So if you remember, we first have attached, we did a start collection function call which had attached this, and now we can run a destroy call and it will just like destroy that function, and then we'll also try with a few different sort of outputs to see what will happen. Okay. So, Akhilesh, do you want to share your test function from last time? Um, in the meantime, I'll also give you this piece of code. I honestly want you folks to start writing this by yourself and not me giving you the code and just a copy paste, because as said, like it will make things much harder later if this is just being a control C and a control V, right? Yeah, I'll just wait for you folks to create this function and then add this function. Where are we adding this? We are adding this to our test function. So, yep, I'll just wait for a minute for you folks to try it out. Okay, I see that Tehlil has shared, Nakhilesh has also shared. Our test function from last time where we are creating the collection, then you're checking if the collection is existing. So if you remember, we had received a debug true the last time we tried it. Um, and then we were trying to add an item and the collection size was becoming one. So in the debug statement, we had one as well. And now at the end of all of this, after the size part, what you can try doing is adding this line to destroy. So does anyone want to say, like, just give me the statement that you can add in this test function? It's the exactly similar syntax that we have been using for the other calls as well. So we have our address and the module name, and then the function call, and then in the parameter, we are passing whatever is required over there, right? And based on that, then we can just run a statement as well. Okay, Alice has shared, folks. Alice, after running this, um, can you try? Okay, I would first wait for everyone to add this statement. Um, but here is what I want you to try after you run this. This is statement again. So we can check now after destruction whether the collection exists at that particular address or not. And as you folks already know, it should give you uh, false. So just try it out and you can paste the output that you're getting after running this. Okay, this is perfect. Perfect, Alice. Okay. Alice has shared, folks, with you her test script here, where first she has created, then she has added item, then she has printed the size, then she has destroyed it, and then she has tried to run the exist function here, in which she has received false. So you know that, okay, the destruction has actually happened. Um, okay, I will wait for a minute for you folks to come up to speed. You can just let me know that we are through. Just type yes or something if this up till this point is clear. Now I want you to try out another example here with this. So I'll just wait for a minute. Okay, perfect. I can see a couple of more folks sharing the output. What is the command to run test for a specified file only? Uh, I think if you do a Aptos move test and then just run a help over there, you can probably get a particular this thing. Yeah, there are some options here. Let me share my screen. on the terminal and show you. I haven't tried it because I just normally run all of them together, but you can specify here with this filter string what ones you want to run. You can also pass certain named addresses over here. Yeah, but basically at any point of time, this CLI, you can just run whatever your command is and then just run a help over it. So you will just get what output it is. So you can try with this filter thing to determine. Okay, now moving back to my code. Where is it? Okay, so which command we used to? Yeah, I just showed that Suleka right now. You have to add a hyphen f or hyphen filter, and you have to give it a string to determine which unit tests to run. I haven't tried it, but I can possibly look for it in the docs and give you an example of how this filter string should look like for it to accept, but the CLI does not say anything more. So maybe I can just share that in our GitHub repo itself. I'll update new commands. Okay, so anything else, folks? If you're through with this, okay, so I want you to try a different variation of what Alice has shared. Let me get Alice's code. Okay, moved quite. Alright, I'll just show you here in my code. So here you can see basically this destroy statement, and then we are running the exist at. What I want you folks to do is to try this destroy statement again. So this commented out line, you can just uncomment this and you can try this again. So we have a destroy and then we have a destroy again. What would happen in this case? Can you try running this, folks? Perfect. As shared by people here, you can see a missing data code has come. Can anyone tell why has this code come? Why are we getting this missing data? Yep. There is no data to remove again. We ran a destroy, and the most important thing that I want you folks to remember is that here in move, we are talking about at a time only one resource can be um, attached, right, of a given type, which is what we discussed last time also. So this is the reason why if we had one resource already attached, we tried to attach another one, then it would not work. And that's the reason why if you have one and you have destroyed it, then you would get this error the next time you run because there is no concept of like multiple resources being attached, right? So, okay, so now that we have clarity over how this destroy thing works, now we can actually start creating a completely new script, completely new module, try to run things here. So, what we are doing for this example is that we are building this game file where we have this particular you can say that it's like a card sort of a thing, like how you play cards of different uh, games having like you probably would have played like cricket card games, right? Where there would be like different players having different strengths, blah blah blah. You can modify this the way that you want to, but the idea here is to introduce a couple of newer functions and to also help us understand that how should like an asset like this can be created and used in Move. Okay, so for this example, we have created this particular struct known as game star, and it has the key thing here. So the key value pair thing that we discussed, right? So and then we have a couple of attributes over here. So we have name, we have country, we have position, we have value. Position can be what position they are playing at, or it can be something else as well. You can create your own attributes. So this vector U8 representation is basically for you to store a string over here. Okay, so basically, vector would be a list of items, and string is basically a list of characters. So in this manner, you can basically store a string over here. So name and country is just that. A position is just going to be an integer, a small integer because we're talking about 0 to 2 is power 8 minus 1, and then value can be that value that's associated with it, like for example what's the value of the card that is being traded, right? So this is the way that we have defined this struct over here, and I want to bring your attention to two things right above it. I would not get into the use standard signer and use standard debug stuff. We have used it multiple times so far in our examples. But what I do want you to focus on are these two particular lines, okay? Because here we have this constant which has this name. It's of this type, and then we have given it a value, like 100 is the value for this particular constant. But this constant actually, if you just see and if you notice from our previous resource example as well, um, we when we are doing the modules and you are trying to after adding a particular resource, you're trying to add another resource, then we would usually end up with an error like resource already exists or something, right? And this missing data error that you came across. So this is basically us just saving a particular error and a error code for this. So we know that whenever this particular error code is being returned, this is the meaning of that. So this is the reason why we have just set this up in this manner. Okay, and this is common practice if you folks have written RESTful API services. You must be familiar with 404, 400, or other sort of errors, 401, right? So it's similar to that where we are setting up the error code so that it's easier for us to like read through the code, right? So yeah, this is one change that we are making. So till this point, what you folks can do is first of all spin up a new file in your sources, and you can just write things up till this point. I will share this, but again, as I mentioned, it would be for the best if you write this code from scratch and not rely on copying and pasting stuff. So I'll just wait for a minute here for you folks to just take the sound, and whenever you're ready, just write yes in the chat or something, and I can continue. you folks are facing any issues, then uh, please mention that as well. Okay. Yeah, Alice, I'm just waiting for folks to write up till this point. If you're done with this, just say yes and we can continue. This, okay, cool. I did copy and paste this code right in the chat. Yeah, yeah, okay, cool. Perfect. Okay. So now we have our next function, which is just our normal constructor function, you can say, where we are creating a new star. We are not taking the value, we're taking everything else here, and then we're just returning that particular struct back. And it's just us passing name, country, position, and we are giving a default value 0 for this. This is similar to our normal struct example of like the fellow thing we did. So public one new fellow, very similar to that. So it's just this function where we are creating a new uh, struct where we are not giving it the value, like we are setting the value as default as 0, but other things we are just setting it up. So I'll just again give you folks a minute to add this. Before we write the mint function, I'm more interested in this get function. So I would want that we first write this and write a test function for this, and then move to the next parts of the code. So first we have this public fun get function, which is taking the address and it is returning us this. So this is also a very unique way in which you can return anything in move. So we are just returning this set of items, which is first is this vector u8 and u64, which is essentially our name and value that we are returning. So this is also very interesting way that you can just return particular things that you want, rather than and you can just structure it just like this and it will return just fine. Okay. And again, we are using acquires game star here because we are using borrow global. So first thing that we're doing is, and we're not using borrow global mute here. The reason, again, obviously you folks know, because we're not trying to modify any value here. So we do not need a mutable reference. So we're just using a borrow global. You're passing the owner. So this is just an address. So that is the reason why we are not using the address of function under the signer API. So I'll just show you here for the reference. We are using the borrow global, which is taking an address. So since it's taking an address, we can just directly pass it in this example, because in this example, we also are passing the address over here. So it's fine. So we can directly pass this rather than doing an address of, and then we are just returning the star name and the star value. Okay, so this is the next function that I want you folks to basically create, and just writing it here. There is a VS Code extension for move. Let me check if I have. Uh, I think there was something that was mentioned somewhere. Let me do a quick search. I'm just checking in the developer documentation. Is it move syntax? I am not sure what you're referring to, Sulekha. Can you be a little bit more descriptive? Is the name of the extension itself move syntax? Is that what you mean? I think I found something from there. Uh, yeah, it is taking me to something on a smooth syntax, but it's not working, you're saying, right? No language by quantum network. Yeah, I think, yep. Move analyzer, I think I've also heard. Move language by quantum network, I don't think I have. But yeah, I think you can give what these folks have mentioned a try. I am assuming it must be very hard to write all of this code without this. It's all going to look very difficult to understand and write without making mistakes. I think it's due for you folks to start building an extension, a very nice one, and then we can get Aptos to support that. Maybe it can be a project for one of you folks once we move to the project phase. And that's actually a very useful tool if you build something like that out. Okay, but coming back to the code, um, did I? Yeah, okay. Has everyone added the get function? The get function that was shared. Have I shared the get function? No, I don't think I actually have shared the get function. Uh, this chat screen keeps flickering. It's very hard for me to check. Yeah, okay, cool. So, can anyone attempt a test function for this? Where I want one line which is basically dedicated to calling our function or constructor function, and then one that can help us get a particular like value. Okay, before that, sorry, I'm so sorry. First, we have to do the mint function. Okay, so now that we have this get function clear, so this main function, I wanted to take this up now because we are introducing this new assert statement here. Um, Okay, so what we are doing here is that we are saying that okay, we have an address that we are minting this to, and we have this particular star. Okay, so you can do something similar where first you have to get run this particular function and create a star, and that star will be passed as an input over here as a param over here. And we are first because now what we are using is this exists function. So if I can just go back to the resource API. So if you see exists takes an address, but what we have passed over here is basically the signer, right? So in order to first convert it back to an address, we will have to run this particular address of function through which we are getting the address ADDR. So after getting this address, now I can just pass this address over here, and this check is basically to check if the address already has that particular resource or not. So already has the star or not in this case, right? So what we are running is assert, and then it will go through if the first condition is true, which is a game star at this particular address does not exist. But let's say that it exists, then the second half, this error will be popped. This is similar to how you can see the assert statements in other languages as well. So the star already exists will be what will be returned. And that doesn't mean that a string like star already exists will be returned, but it will just return as the error code, which in this case will be 100. Okay, and this is basically error handling that we are doing. If we add this error handling, we can basically manage what was happening in our last example with that very weird and long output coming whenever we are running into any sort of errors. Like our program is breaking or terminating or aborting because of that, right? In this way, we are handling it. We are handling it because there is no abrupt abortion of this particular program, right? What we are working around is having proper error handling in place, right? But if this condition goes through, we can move to the next line, which says that move to, and then we are just specifying which address we have to move to and what are we exactly moving. So in this case, the star. So again, moving back to a resource API, you can check that this is moved to and signer. So notice that it's not address over here. That's the reason we did not pass ADDR, but we ended up passing to. So while you're trying to write code, you'll end up making a lot of mistakes with this signer and address. That's what I also did when I started writing, right? But once you start understanding that okay, this is what is the requirement, it will you will be able to get it right. What is actually being passed. So here we are just passing two. So yeah, this is basically the mend function. Um, so okay, I'll just copy paste this for you folks to add in your code. And now what I want you folks to do is to create a test function. This test function will first call the constructor and get a star object. And that star object will then be passed and to this mint function with some test address that you can create. And this means that this asset would then be moved to this or attached to this particular address. And if let's say it already exists, then it's supposed to throw an error, And once this is done, what we can do is we can call the get function, and based on what output you are sent, you can get the value from it. So I'll give you a very small hint here, because the name and all of these things that you have passed, it's a vector U8, so it might be confusing on how we can pass the value for that here. So I'm just gonna give you this first line of this code so that you can just use that and set it up. So this is the way basically you can pass. So I've just added, like, what the basically, like, the first would be in terms of a function definition. The first would be the name, the second is the country, and the third is the position. Okay, so this is the way that we added it. I think today you probably would have seen some news around India being named to Bharat and stuff. So I've just, for that sake, mentioned Bharat over here. So yeah, that's a hint for you folks to write the test function. So give it a shot, write the test function, and then we can discuss the output that comes from there. Circling back in folks. If you have any errors or any doubts, you can ask. Any progress on the test function, folks? Okay, so Alice has written some code. She's yet to test her code. Let's take a look at her code. Might want to change this acquires collection into acquires game star. Um, ampersand star. Uh, yes, you will have to mint it to that particular address first and then try to get the value for that. Yeah, so you can I think make a couple of changes in this code and try it. Anyone having any luck with the test function? Alice, did you modify your code? Okay, Taril, you can break the problem down into smaller problems and test at every part. Okay, I think Alice has just completed twice, Game Star. Perfect, nice. So everyone can refer Alice's code. She has written the test function and she has printed first the entire star and then she has got the particular name value from the get function. Yep. Then she has printed the name and the value. Uh, yep. Looks good. I'll just wait for folks to get till this point. Yep, perfect. Can see a few more folks are posting about. Okay. Mm, all right, then should we move to the next function or should I wait for a few minutes? Okay, folks. I think we can move to the next part. Just give me a second. Okay, so now we have done the mint, we have done the get function. I want to try to do two more functions. Um, First, I want to talk a little bit about this set price function, and then I want to show you the transfer function. So the set price function is just us changing or modifying the value, the trading value for this particular card. It's taking this parameter owner and what price we want it to be set to. So first, what we are checking is an assert statement to check whether uh, this particular address holds the GameStar resource or not. So it will go through if it exists, but in case it does not exist, we will pop this error star not exists. Okay, which will essentially give us the 101 error code. Okay, And here, one more thing I want you to notice is just this. This exists. Here we had an exclamation mark, which was negation of the statement. So this will go through if it does not exist, but this will go through if this exists, which should be the case. For mint, there should not be any resource attached. But for set price, there should already be a resource attached. So this is the way that we have crafted this assert statement. And since here, if you see, we are already getting the address. So we are not passing the signer address of and all of this, which we are doing over here. We can just directly pass the owner here. Okay. Then we are writing let star is equals to borrow global. Similar to get, only difference here being that we are doing a borrow global, not a borrow global, but a borrow global mute, because what we are seeking right now is a mutable reference. Which is why if you run this star dot value is equals to price, this will run just fine. For the sake of just trying out things, why don't you go ahead and modify your current get function by adding something like this star dot value is equals to some price. You can pass it, or you can even write some arbitrary value over here as well, and try with your current test script. Again, to explain, I'm asking you to edit this get function and add something like this. I want to see what error can possibly pop up in this case when we are using, and we're not using a borrow global mute, but we are ending up using a borrow global. So yeah, just give this a shot, folks, and then I will give you the set price function for you to copy as well. This is okay. So like the this does happen sometimes. Sometimes the warnings need to be removed in that particular file. Why don't you run first an aptos move compile and then try Aptos move test? It does it sometimes, and you might need to remove the warnings associated with that particular file. Associated with, in this case, game.move in my case. So just remove those warnings. They might ask you to remove some unused stuff. So just remove it. So and you can just then try it again. I'll just wait for, so okay, I want you folks to get the output and then I'll continue with the rest of the this thing. Yep, that is correct. As Alice has mentioned, what will happen? The star dot value, if you're trying to change it here, it will give a error because it's not a mutable reference. So this is an invalid statement. We can't do something like this over here. Okay, perfect. Before I copy and give you the set price, this thing, you by the folks, you can start try writing it by yourselves as well. Sorry about that. Yeah, without me sending it, but I want to wait it out because Sulekha and Vijay, I want them to first get to the results of the previous prompt before I move ahead. So yeah, you can. The screen is shared. You can write the function, but I'm not providing it here right now. Otherwise, the pace of the class wouldn't be uh, matching. Circling back in Suleika and Vijay, did you get the output? I'm also now pasting the set price function. So you folks can give this a shot and you can actually add the set price function to your test script and again run the get function and show me the output on both the cases. So first it will show a debug 0 once you run the get function and then you can put input price any number and you can just show the debug statement after running the get again, which will show us. Okay, perfect. I see an output with 1,000 from Akhilesh, and let me also look at the test function. Yep, printed the name and value after running get, then ran the set price function, passing the address and 1,000 as the value, and then ran the function again, and you can see the output here. So, yep, we'll wait for a few minutes. In the meantime, Sulekha and Vijay, I would really encourage you folks to share what is the error that you're running into, what is your code, so that we can debug it together and you can also proceed, right? So, that might be better if we do that. Just wait for a minute for other folks to also attempt. Talil, Alice, you can give it a shot. Okay, I can see some outputs have been shared. Give me a second. Okay, I can see the Helen's output and okay, Suleika has got the results. Vijay, have you done any changes? Need to know. Unable to debug while running tests, just it gives warning. Uh, do you want to share your code and your warnings, Vijay? We can then debug that. I'll just wait for a minute. Next function that we'll be looking at is the transfer function. So yeah, before we start on the transfer function, I'll just wait for a minute. Yep, you are missing an exclamation mark after assert. So it's assert exclamation mark. Just how the components fit. Can you try this and run again? Warning has been removed, but there is no output for the debug. Can you first run Aptos move compile and then run Aptos move test and try once? Yeah. Just a minute. Um, that's weird. Uh, okay, Vijay. Well, I guess I'll have to see your case specifically as to why it's not working. Maybe in the meantime, you can paste the output that you get from Aptos after running Aptos move test. For the rest of the folks, we'll just do this one last transfer function, and then we'll see how the script works. So yeah, so now we did the test set price function. Now we're involving actually two different addresses. Okay, and we are running this transfer function where we have defined the owner and we have defined the person that this would be transferred to. So first we are getting the address of the person it will be transferred to, and we are checking. I'm sorry. Okay, I think this needs to be the other way around. Yeah, this needs to be owner, but anyways, just assume that I have interchanged the code. But we are just checking that if uh, no, wait, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is the address of whom it will be transferred to. Um, and we are checking that whether they already have the attached resource or not. That is what we have to check. Um, and this should be the condition that needs to be there, but yeah, it has been interchanged. Yeah, maybe you can fix up this transfer function. And then we have the address of the owner, where you have to do this particular assert statement. So, yep, you have to just interchange these lines. And if it if it does not exist, then this is what should be the assert coming up. And for the two person, we need the star already exist error, meaning that the owner needs to hold the resource already. If not, it should throw this star not exist, and the person who the asset will be given to uh, does not should not be holding that. So in case they do, then the star already exist should pop. Okay. So what is happening here is that we are just doing like a simple move from here. So we are getting that particular resource. First, we are detaching the resource from the original owner address in this line. And notice that we are passing address here because that's how the move API works. You can go and check in the resource.move file. And then we are incrementing the value of star. And once we have modified it, then we are again transferring it back to the account that needs to hold it. That is like the to account. So just doing a normal move to. And this is also us changing the value for star as well. So yeah, this is more or less the transfer function that we have. I'm gonna paste this, but as I already mentioned, this function is not correct. So maybe you folks can fix this up and just try this out. Yep. Sure. So, Sulekha, what we are doing here is that we have an owner and we have a to. I have made a mistake in this code, but I'll just still explain you. So, first of all, what we are getting is the address of the owner and the person that it needs to be transferred to using our address of function. And what we need to check for the owner is that they should hold the resource. So if they do not hold the resource, then it's a problem. So we should pop something like this, an error that it does not have. So instead of to, it should have been ADDRO here, address of owner. But in case of the two person, they should not already hold that particular address, sorry, that particular resource. So we have this particular assert statement that needs to be thrown. Okay. And what we are doing is that we are then, I'm just gonna move this out of here because it's creating some confusion. Okay. Yeah. And then what we're doing is we are just running a move from, that is, we are detaching the resource from the owner address over here, and we're getting that resource. Then we are modifying the value here, and then we are finally running a move to. That is, we are reattaching the resource but to a different address, that is the to address. First, it was owned by the owner address, now it's being owned by the to address. So this is more or less the transfer function where we are transferring an asset from the owner to a different address. Okay, so this is what I want you folks to rewrite. Yeah, Abhishek. The asset won't be attached to anything. It's just a resource that is not attached to something yet. And resource is just a struct in that sense. So it would be like in global storage normally, but not under a particular address. Okay, I see that. Yep. Love that Alice has chosen. If you can see the first line, I think everyone should also pay attention to the first line on how Alice has passed both of these addresses for the test function, the account and to, and how she has utilized this in the test function. I'll wait for other folks to follow as well. This is basically just the last function that we'll be doing for the day. And I also want you to like run a couple of things that will essentially break or assert clauses and how we can actually see the errors come from there. So that's the next step that we'll be doing. So, but before that, I want you folks to first write this and try this out. Hey everyone, have you been able to run the test function for transfer? Once you're done, I want to try out a couple of more variations to show you how the error uh, stuff shows. Hey everyone, waiting for you folks to get to the debug output for the transfer function. Um, okay, I think I see. I think Talil has got it, and I think Akhilesh has got it now as well. Okay, perfect. Okay, folks, so now I want you to make some modifications in your test function just to have some fun. So, what we can do right now is that if you see our text function over here, so this is just some function I've written. What I want you to do right now is that when you're running this mint, if you move back to your mint, you can see we have an assert statement. So do you just want to copy this mint line and try to run it again? So something like this, and then a paste, and then run it again. You want to give this a shot and see how it works wherever your main function is. So what we're trying to look for is basically this assert and how it can stop us. So just try rerunning your mint right after your mint statement, and you can share whatever output you get from this. My bad. Can you try to make a new star object and do it rather than using this because uh, it's not allowing us to do for this. So maybe create another star 2 or something and try minting it. And you can have star 2 over here, and star 2 can just be this and this. So the error that we are getting is because we are trying to move the same variable, and when we are not writing a copy, what it ends up doing is whenever we run this function, it's passing this, like we lose the ownership of this variable, this particular star variable. So that's the reason we can spin up a new one and then try out this example. Oh, okay. I just asked you folks that this particular star variable, right? Because we are using the same variable again, then that variable has been moved. If you remember, we did a local variables ownership class, right? So that's the reason why I'm saying is that create another star two, and then try running the mint again with the star two instead of star. We are just basically trying to break the function so that we can see the assert statement kick in, essentially. So uh, you have just changed this star two in one place, right, Taylor? Perfect. So if you can see the output here that has been shared, I don't know why this keeps on flickering this meeting chat. Okay, let me put this video. Okay, so if you can see here, Talil has just, no, Alice has just pasted this particular test was not expected to error, but it aborted with code 100. So this code 100 is basically coming from what we had just made, that change, right? Because of which the star already exists and the star does not exist, having 100 or 101 different values, and how that kicks in basically. Okay, folks, we are almost at the end of today's class. Okay, so this is basically the last thing that I want you to just test. Um, Once we are done with this, I think we can close. Yeah, okay, perfect. Uh, as a small homework, you folks can also test it for the 101 error code, that is star not exist one. So you can do something similar, and you can try testing it out. Really try moving this and then running this again to break the flow. Trigger this. Remove, like do a move from not exist 101 about error. Perfect. So that last class we will be doing like the move lang stuff. We have built sufficient knowledge in move to now actually start using the libraries, existing libraries in Aptos, to just build things over that. And in the next classes, we can basically start working around a little bit with the already tokens. Like there's already like some SDK very quickly. Okay, so thank you folks for joining in. Fauzi, I think we can end this class.